And we're back here live with Dude, What's the Bit? We're talking about freight markets and everything, I guess, in between with Casey Larkin. My name's Kevin Hill. And after what, a 2 or 3 week hiatus, right? We're back on air.
Yes, we are stoked to be back Thursday afternoon, as like we've always been doing here. But yeah, TIA conferences, things are crazy. So
Yeah,
excited to
it
be
is.
back
It's
up and running here.
conference season, right?
That's right.
It is. It is. What's the fish above your head there? Where are you at?
I'm in the office. I guess I usually have the virtual background, but that is a mahi mahi or a dolphin
Money,
fish.
money. Nice. Nice. But yeah, so it's a good week last week. It went down to TIA, met up with a lot of old friends, had a really good conversation over prime rib that was free there at the booth with your dad.
Oh,
We
no way.
talked for a few minutes. Yeah, yeah, he's doing good. He's doing good. We're talking about everything new in trucking and everything that's old in trucking. So it was good.
Very cool. Yeah. Anytime get excuse to have a ribeye for dinner, hard pressed not to take it. But no, I didn't know that. That's cool. What were you guys talking about? What's new? What's old? I guess maybe a lot of the same old with the new
Same old,
flavor.
same old. We're in the exhibition hall, right? So they had the free dinners out there, which is always nice, right? And we're non on prime rib and basically talking about what's new, kind of what new in tech and what's not so new and kind of just comparing notes on that and talking about what we talked with them about, kind of exit strategies and kind of how that funnels into the funding of new entrants and new startups and kind of what everyone's looking for in when it comes to investing.
Yeah. Seems like there's been a nice, a lot of influx investment in agentic AI
A lot
last
of AI.
last couple of months, right? I heard there were probably, probably everybody expected there were 10 or 20 times as many of the Fleetworks or
The,
drum
the,
kits
wi-
on the floor this year than this time last year.
yeah, the exhibit hall was full of AI, generative AI. There's a lot of people running around that they weren't quite to just launched, right? Just launched or still kind of in stealth, running around and showing off their new tools or their new concepts. So it was a fun meeting and just meeting up with everybody again. It's been 2 or 3 years since I've been to TIA. It was good to have some great conversations.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sweet.
getting geared up for the Broker Carrier Summit coming up, not this Monday, but next Monday, the 28th. That's gonna be a blast. I always enjoy that.
Yeah, everybody that I've ever spoken with that's attended, so they just they absolutely love it. I know you've been focused on that one for the last couple of years, but yeah, man, glad you're able to get back on out on the floor there for
Yeah,
TIA. It sounds like I don't know the meal they were serving. It's almost like a McLeod conference.
I know, right? It was good food, great. They had the PGH Award there the week before at the JW Marriott down there,
And the Final
Texas Open.
Four, like the week before that, right?
Yeah, yeah, Final Four earlier that week, yeah. Or maybe the week before that. Yeah, I forget. But yeah,
San
San
Antonio
Antonio was
Top.
happening.
Sweet.
Happening. So, okay, cool. So, talking about TIA and conferences, ran into my old friend David Stone. He's over at WSI now, heading up that brokerage, creating a brokerage for them. So we're going to talk to him about that experience as well as the technology out there and just what's going on in the industry. Maybe we'll talk about tariffs too. Who knows?
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to his perspective. I was checking out his LinkedIn profile before the show, and I think he got his initial degree in nuclear engineering.
Did you really?
Yeah, he did.
Are you a nuclear engineer?
I am. I am. I
Oh
did
shit.
I did nuclear engineering for the first part of my career for government contractors. So yeah, I may glow green at night, but no longer in that path.
What does that consist of, right? I mean, what does a nuclear engineer actually do?
Yeah, so you wouldn't know it from me and my demeanor, but the first part of that is a lot of computer programming. So you learn how to program in Monte Carlo simulation. You learn to program in some old C++ stuff. So all these software engineers that are out there, that's how I got my start too. But essentially, what you're doing is you're doing a lot of statistical analysis in terms of how things are supposed to be or what could happen. And you're supporting engineers on the mechanical side that are building reactor compartments or building rail cars. So I joke with people. I actually got my start in logistics by dealing with rail cars that had nuclear fuel that were going from Virginia out to Idaho. So there's my start in logistics.
Do they broker those?
Yeah, so those are all done through the government, and you actually have to have, when you talk about like OD stuff and you need to shut down roads, well, those actually go with a armed guard that is on the rail car at all times. So you want to talk about potential accessorials attached to it. Armed guards is a pretty big one.
I remember in brokerage where people were like pharmaceutical companies. A good example, right? You got $1 million load or $3 million load, right? On 2 pallets, it seemed like, right? And armed guards, escorts, and people are calling, on the brokerage floor, calling them, trying to come to broker a load. And it's just like, I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah. You're not doing your normal, let me pick up the phone and track this load and like be okay with it. No, like it's a little more intense.
Yeah. A little bit more security and vetting involved than posting it out on a load board.
That's right.
So you're a nuclear engineer. How long have you been in logistics? It's been quite a while.
What's it been? 20 years, I guess now, right? So yeah, I joke with people that I was doing rail cars before rail cars were cool. But my real take is when I got involved with Amazon, and Amazon kind of showed me the ropes on a lot of different aspects, right? Number one, from just a attitude in terms of how the customer is right and how we can support the customer in everything that we do, to how to support same day delivery, to how to load packages onto a plane. All of those things you get involved with at some point in your Amazon career. And I think, I spent 6-7 years at Amazon and came up through the understanding of all different kinds of transportation, warehousing, logistics. And that's where I really fell in love with this idea that, the hustle, the grind, the constant moving in this industry is so much fun. So Amazon kind of taught me what I needed to know to be able to go off and participate in the things that I'm doing now.
It's awesome. So, talk about your new gig, WSI.
Yeah, no, awesome stuff. So WSI, I mean, if you think about what WSI is, I mean, they're a warehousing company, right? I mean, we've all been around and seen different warehouses. And you kind of don't think about them that often, but WSI's got 14 million square feet of warehouse facility. Has a very, very small brokerage based in Wisconsin, but we're up to the things that I love to do, which is to go build, expand, grow a brokerage. I think every brokerage that you talk to probably says they're in growth mode, but like we legit are. We're going to 10x this thing over the next 5 years, and we're doing it the old-fashioned way, right? We're bringing on the right people to build up the culture to be able to support. We'll be based with a lot of those folks here in Dallas. And we are at the point where a lot of the tech that we found at TIA, that's a lot of the tech that we're having internal conversations with in terms of what do we add, why do we add it, what's the ROI on it. But it's a lot of the same stuff that, big brokerages are going through. But I think the important thing is, we're going to have to not only 10x our sales coming in, we're going to have to 10x our ability to cover loads. We're going to have to, build out the infrastructure to be able to support the team and what that piece kind of looks like going forward. My background is I've done that before at other locations. I love to do it. I love the hustle, and I think it's a ton of fun. I mean, this past week I've been nothing but covering freight. If you saw me at TIA, I was sitting over in a corner at certain times talking with carriers. Trying to cover freight, and it just reminds you how fun this industry really can be.
It can. It's going to be a great time to build a brokerage right now. with all the tech and talking about 10xing that. A lot of that is all about productivity, and it's using the tools that you can to leverage, do that operational leverage.
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot over the past couple of years, right, in terms of how a brokerage should be. And I think that one of the things that's super interesting is there is a ton of tech, and you almost get information overload, right, when you start talking about the tech. I was joking with somebody the other day that man, you could literally do an entire white paper on all the tech that's out there and the use cases for it and what they're actually trying to sell this piece on. Because I think every day something new is coming out, somebody's trying to solve some piece on it, and that's exciting, but it can be a lot. And so I think that, for me and kind of how I think about the tech, I think there's core elements of everybody's tech, the TMS, your back office, your tracking, your pricing. And then I think everything else is an add-on on top of that based on that productivity or based on that potential ROI that's going to come from it. But I think, those are the core things, and you got to go hard at those and make sure those are the right pieces of your brokerage. Because truthfully, and we're obviously finding this out, and we've kind of known this, but operators want to operate. They want good technology that can help them. And salespeople just want to make sure that freight is covered, right? And if you can't promise a salesperson that freight is covered, then you're not going to generate many inbound leads that want to come and work for you. And I think that's a lot of what my focus is making sure that operations is tied it up. We have the right operators in play. We have the right technology in play to support them. And then the rest kind of, filters in from there.
Sweet. What kind of freight do you guys like to move? How much freight are you guys moving? How much do you aspire to move moving forward?
Yeah, all of it right now, right? I mean, I want it all. No, but I think that when you're this is the classic question on building out a brokerage. Like, what are we actually good at right now? We're really good at paper. We're really good at simple one pick, one drop, dry van type freight, because that's what this team has done in the past. And I think that's super important to when you're thinking about a freight brokerage and you're going after freight, right? I think all of us go after and say, I want it all and go give it to me. And then you end up with, $1 million Dell computer load. And you're like, I don't know how to haul this. I don't even know what to do with this, right? So I think you need to, lean into what you're really good at, go get that additional freight, and then build off the team and the cadence and the tips and procedures necessary to go get that additional type of freight. So for us right now, it's simple, vanilla freights. We're going after that hard. I think the great thing about having a company that has so much warehouse space is there's so much untapped potential, right? All that stuff that's coming in, all that stuff that's going out, who's hauling it? I can tell you some of the big boys are out there, and they're touching it right now. And that is prime freight for an internal company to take a look at from a brokerage perspective. So that's where we're at. Where are we going to go? Obviously, we're gonna lean into some of those other areas, at least from a flatbed perspective, and start to move some of that. Reefer will be way down the line, and then high value stuff is going to be extremely down the line for this team as we build this piece out.
Hell yeah!
You have a warehouse full of leads.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, the great thing about the piece that I keep on referring to in terms of this warehouse space is you have an opportunity to really look at fun solutions for your customers, right? Are there potential for consolidation? Are there potential for partials? Are there certain pieces that you can cross stock for that customer that maybe somebody else can't support? So I think starting a brokerage, right? If you're going to start a brokerage, and some will have assets attached to it, right? Which there's pieces of that inside of WSI as well. But I think starting a brokerage and having 14 million square feet of warehouse space throughout the U.S. is a pretty decent place to start at from the standpoint of a customer, coming to you with a potential issue that you need to solve, and now you have ability and space to go solve it.
Definitely.
Exactly.
It's got to be nice to have I don't know, I guess a warehouse full of ideas, if you will. Get your hands on the product, and I'm sure that's helpful to figure out how to solve problems for people. Maybe a little bit better than the next guy. But anywho, you mentioned using tech a lot. I'm wondering, and you're just at TIA. There's like so many different areas of the brokerage, right, that you could use tech to automate or make your life easier. I don't know. Is there anything that you're excited about in like the pricing or the quoting aspect of things? We'd love to hear your thoughts on like the accounts receivable space. I know people are really trying to figure out how to make the most out of their money and their cash flow. And then I don't know, any cool agentic stuff that you've seen. Would love to, learn a little bit more about how you're thinking about automating things and increasing revenue per head count, if that's something that you guys care about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when you look at tech, and I have this conversation a lot with folks that are evaluating tech, like, to me, it's all about reducing this non-value added function that sits inside of a, carrier salesperson or sits inside of a customer salesperson, right? So like, when you're looking at tech, like, what are the things that they're doing constantly? I think the things that I get excited about is some of the scheduling technology that's starting to come out, right? If you just do a time study, going back to some engineering stuff, right?
Mhm.
If you do a time study on how many times your carrier sales rep pulls out of their TMS and goes to things like OpenDoc to schedule an appointment, right? I think the number of opportunities that they are not in their TMS and they're not engaging with carriers and they're not covering freight, they're simply scheduling. And whether that's a carrier sales in a certain brokerage model or whether that's an account manager, like, it doesn't really matter what the title is. But I think that piece alone costs folks time. And I think that time piece is more than you realize inside of your brokerage, right? So if let's say I do 100 loads in a given week, if I'm doing that at 5 minutes per load to go schedule, that's 500 minutes that I just gave up to go schedule, right? So I think some of that technology is, really leads into this idea of getting rid of the non-value added stuff. If that's 500 minutes that they could be doing something else that's going to go move the needle for the brokerage, that's winning in my book. So those are things I look at. I think from a pricing piece, it's the same piece, right? I get excited when pricing tools get integrated directly into TMSs, and whether that's a proprietary pricing piece or whether that's one of the providers that's out there right now. I think those things are super exciting because, once again, it doesn't require you to get outside the TMS. You have everything in there. You can see what carriers have moved freight for you in the past. You can see what the current rate is. You can turn around and have that information at your fingertips, so you can very easily engage with those carriers however you see fit. I think those are super exciting pieces that are sitting in there. So the last one on the back office, I think, anybody that knows me knows that one of my first things that I say is any brokerage you go into, back office is probably broken. It just is, right? There's probably a manual piece that happens. There's probably folks doing 1,000 things, but just aren't really kind of getting that piece over the hill. And I think that the technology that's coming into that space is exciting. I think the faster we can pay our carriers and the easier we can make it for them, right? Zero resistance to paying them is going to win inside this market. But the piece for me, and I'm guilty of it, right? When we talk about labor, I just throw people at the back office. Hey, go solve this. Go call on PODs. Go turn around and manually do this operation. And truthfully, I know we kind of, you guys were talking about AI at the start. That's where I believe that the AI piece could come in. Anybody that has a manual person collecting PODs in this day and environment is completely wrong. Like, we have to get technology to go get those PODs, upload them into your system, have them ready and available to match up directly to that carrier invoice. Now it becomes super easy for me to do my freight matching. And now I can turn around and pay my carriers faster. Like, those are things that I think are important. And then the same thing goes on the customer side, right? What are the customer requirements? Where can my technology component help me on that customer side so that I'm not sitting there manually doing it? My opinion of a back office is exception management. That's what you should be managing to. In today's environment, we don't. We manage to everything, right? We manage to the 90% that don't have issues. We manage to the 10% exceptions. We manage to all of it because we don't let that technology kind of take over. And I think that's where, we've kind of seen this move from like upfront in the load of pricing and like a lot of really cool tools. Now I think we're starting to see a lot of pressure back into the back office in terms of where back office can support on some of the tools that are coming out.
Yeah, I see that too. I saw a lot of those tools at TIA, and there's just you take your 500 minutes, right? I think you can double that because you lose focus, you lose where you are. You have to get set back up. If you're a carrier salesperson and you move to schedule, right? Usually, in a perfect world, you pick up the phone or go online, right? And that would just be done. It would just be done, but you could do it in one step.
That's right.
Sometimes you can't connect with anybody. So that's just one more thing on your plate over here.
Yeah.
And you have to focus back on doing what you're doing. I think you could double that, 500 minutes.
I think the scheduling piece is super interesting because we don't we focus on going and getting the carrier. We focus on the freight
Mhm.
matching, right? We focus on that side of things. And then we're like, all right, cool. What's next, right? We feel good when we cover a load. We're
Yeah.
like, yes, we covered it. Awesome. But then it's the rest of it, right? And it's regardless of where in your brokerage, who handles that, whether it's operations, it doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
But I think the biggest piece on that is, and we all know it, right? You covered a hot load, carrier's on it, you feel good, you walk away, you go get a drink, whatever. And all of a sudden that carrier falls off. You're like, dang it, I just scheduled this carrier. Now I got to go back through that entire process to go find me another carrier. Okay, I'll do that. But now I got to schedule it again. And like, it's that scheduling piece, that back component that we don't often think about. And so I think, this is where technology takes over, and you turn around and it doesn't matter on the scheduling piece. It matters if you covered that truck. And the moment you do inside of your TMS, it should pick that piece up and schedule for you. And now all of a sudden you're having the conversation with your carrier based on availability without ever having to go out and go to a scheduling piece that's outside of your TMS that takes your focus away from what you're actually dealing with on that carrier. Like that to me, it makes a brokerage that much more efficient overnight by just turning around and having a scheduling component that sits on top of some of these scheduling tools that are out there.
Yep. So David, you walked the floor, TIA, right? I did too. I've been thinking about this and posing this question, right? Theoretically, and it's all theory, right? Because there's execution involved, which is, I don't even want to think about. Theoretically, could you run a one-person $50 million brokerage? Are we going to see this at some point soon?
I think we're going to get close. I mean, I think the number of 50 million, we can argue through that piece, but I think you're going to get close, right? And the reason I say that, right, is because the number of tools that are coming out now really are starting to hone in on what it takes to go find a customer, right? So I'm going to go try to engage with this customer, and not necessarily leadless, but it's a leadless, right? And you have tools out there that are providing you every single shipper, what trucks are coming out of shippers. You can see all that stuff. So if I have those components, and I know what trucks are in and out of different places based on technology that's out there, I now have a customer. I now have carriers that are in there. I have pricing tools that feed into that are extremely easy for me to calculate. Have some of this AI technology, and the phone systems can do this. The email scraping pieces can do it. So theoretically, could you get there? Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of stuff that you hope works and you hope matches up correctly. And assuming everything stays up and is running, could you run it? Yeah. Is it going to be extremely stressful? Probably. Are you going to have some freight nightmares? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the moment that system goes down or anything happens with that, you now have to scramble back into human interaction with that piece. And we may lose the ability to truly be great negotiators, or truly lose the ability to be great closers with some of these customers just because of the technology. So could you do it? Yes. Would I want to be a part of it? Probably not. Now, the other side of it is, do I think that you need the days of 100, 200 people inside of a brokerage to run a large scale brokerage? No, I don't. And I think you're starting to see that in a lot of operating costs per load, and you're starting to see that in a lot of bottom line calculations that brokerages are running. And I think a lot of brokerages are starting to get feet held to the fire in terms of being able to turn a profit because of some of this stuff. So do I think that we're going to get closer to where the brokerage really becomes a revenue generating machine that can sit inside of a large scale organization with limited number of people and be able to be on par with some of these other revenue pieces inside of a company? I think we're getting very close to that, and I think that's going to be a huge piece versus kind of this cost sucking machine that sits over here. I think we're going to be at really close based on the technology, but one person, 50 million. Whew, I don't want to be that person that tries that first.
Neither do I, but I think theoretically you put something together. If you're good at even doing that, you could put something together. I think in 5 or 10 years. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but I think to that point, it's kind of a thought exercise. But I think 2 million per employee, 2.5 million, it's going to be the new normal pretty soon.
I agree with that. And I think that's probably an easier path to get to, just from a thought exercise, is what could an employee actually generate based on some of this technology. And I think you're close to that. I think we're starting to see some of that technology produce itself where 2.5 is not out of the question.
No. It is right there in the wheelhouse. I think I think in the next few years, within 5 years, I think 2 million will be, because I agree. You don't need 100 people, 150 people to run $100 million brokerage.
Nope.
Just don't. What do you think, Casey?
Come ask me in 5 years, I guess, because that's the goal here is, make this $100 million brokerage with less people.
Exactly.
So we'll see if I nailed it or not.
I know. We'll see if it's 50 people or 100 people.
That's right.
Or 150 people. Who knows, right?
I should start to get you to send off the graph just in terms of number of people at WSI brokerage and see where we're at, man. See how we're tracking to it.
I know Kev is tracking that stuff.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some chart to that effect, but no, I mean, I think that's the goal, right? We got to figure out how to do more with less, and I think AI really enables you to do a lot more of that. Maybe it even creates a world where it frees up more of your time to just focus on those relationships, make sure that those relationships are good. The tech is set up in such a fashion that you're not really doing too much exception management. You're really kind of just maintaining the relationship with the customer and the carrier. I think the hard part would be probably the carrier relationships, just based on like the ratio, right? How many trucks do you need to move $50 million worth of freight? How many conversations is that a day? Can you maintain that relationship with that carrier if you're not spending 15, 20 minutes on the horn with him once a week because he's lonely and driving, right? But I don't know. Can you make the guys like that much easier? It's interesting. It's interesting. And I also feel like I saw a research report this past week. It's not surprising. I think it was like, I don't know, is that at Harvard or Stanford or something like that? And they're like, the more you use AI, the more lonely you are. So it is interesting to think about, for sure.
I think some of these cool tools now in AI, I mean, they're full on conversations where you don't know it's anything, right? And I think like that's scary and exciting all at the same time, right? So is there potential where that technology gets utilized for folks that are on the road and need to call in and talk to somebody and feel good about it? I mean, I think there's probably something here in a couple of years where that just becomes part of the norm and part of the engagement with them. So we'll see, but that's I mean, I think AI, the word AI is kind of thrown around, but I think that the way in which AI helps us is to remove some of these things that doesn't allow us to truly focus on the things we need to. Now, all of that being said, I mean, let's think back. The iPhone came out and it was supposed to make us more efficient, and it did the exact opposite. So I'm sure there's going to be something that gets created where, now we need another tool to be able to help us with that piece once AI takes away all these other other things that we're currently doing.
Yeah, and I think that especially on the call-in side, right? Call-in to negotiate rates or to take care of drivers, things like that. I think we are almost there right now, right? I think.
Yeah, I think.
Scary.
I mean, if you think back historically, right? I mean, originally, well, not originally, and I won't claim to be the expert on this, but I think when you start thinking through, like, where does it make the most sense? Like, tracking in itself is a completely strange process in terms of how we've done it, right? I mean, you have tools that have come out to track carriers, and it texts them and it says, give me your, breadcrumb information so that I have it. And some of that works, some of that doesn't. You can argue through your best providers on those pieces. And then you have obviously the manual piece, right? Hey, we're going to call and we're going to check in, and is that accurate? Is that not accurate? And you have those components that are out there, right? And ELDs come out and everybody says, hey, this is the greatest thing, and let's do this, and this will solve all of our tracking pieces. But at the end of the day, like, we're still arguing through tracking and how to get to 100% tracking all the time on every single load, right? And it's what our customers want, and it's what every brokerage is going after. And I think when you think about some of this AI stuff and you think about the ability for it to track at the right intervals, at the right time, engage with that carrier where they want to be met, right? Whether it's a text message or whether it's via an app or via a phone call or whatever the case may be. And it can provide that information and upload it very quickly into your TMS. So you can come in and look at your TMS and identify what actually needs to be actioned and what isn't needing to be actioned. I think that's where this becomes very, very fun technology, because that used to be your offshoring team. That used to be your nearshoring team, right? And you'd add people to it, right? Every brokerage has whatever, 25, 50, 100 people that are nearshored that are just doing tracking. I think that's where some of this technology comes in and says, we remove that, and now we allow you to track all of your loads via this piece. Maybe it gets us closer to that, that unicorn of 100% tracking for every single brokerage. And maybe that just becomes table stakes going forward to every shipper is, hey, can you provide this? Yes or no? And those that can win it, and those that can't, are kicked to the curb.
Well, what percentage of loads are tracked now? Let's take the brokerage world and leave the asset-based.
Yeah.
out, or
Yeah. I think that's a good study. I think, the best that are out there are probably 85 to 90% being tracked right now, right? I mean, not to call out a former employee, but that's what we got to at Ryder, and I think that we were very successful on some of that stuff. So I think that's through manual brute force of verifying every single driver number and calling and engaging and getting them to download the apps and getting them set up with ELDs. Like that is pure brute force to get to that point. And that's where I think this technology says, hey, I can get you to 100%. I don't need all this brute force. I don't need these people. Just tell me what you want from a logic piece. I'll go off and execute it. And I'll let you know the results from it. I think that's where it gets to the point of like, you're at 100% with zero additional ad and zero additional folks that are a part of this process.
It's interesting. Because people are, talking about electronic tracking, right? We were still talking about it. It's been talking about it for a dozen years.
Yep.
And
that was supposed to be the end all be all, right? Like that was supposed to be it. Like we got it. We know everything now.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't provided that level of visibility that all of us wanted. And I think when you start talking, like if you look at pure ELDs, right? I think, in a prior life, when I started engaging just in terms of what world class is, you start to hear metrics like 50%, maybe 55%, maybe 60% of loads are tracked via ELD. That to me is amazing. So if you turn around and tell me a brokerage is at 90% tracked of all their loads, and of that 90%, maybe 50% of those are ELDs, that means the rest of it, quote unquote, tracked either via a manual interaction or via an app-based GPS piece that you want to start talking fraud. There's potential for fraud getting into that. You have all these different pieces that go into it, I think are extremely interesting. And then you have technology that comes out, and Ryan over at GenLogs is coming out with cameras. I think those are pieces where you start to feed in some of this stuff to get to 100% tracking with zero human touches, zero human interaction. I think that's going to be something that you probably start to see more of, because you're right. I mean, we've been at this thing with ELD mandate. What was that? 2017, 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Right?
Yeah.
So we've been at this for a while now, and we're still arguing through, hey, let me see your ELD information so I can actually track you.
It's true.
It's always a tough conversation.
Yeah, it is a great conversation. And like the whole point, why do we want visibility or why do we want tracking, right? Like, and it means different things to different people. It means a different thing to you as the broker than it does to, the carrier who needs to know where their trailer is, right? Because, they may have 5 different people or 5 different tractors hauling one load, depending on how it's done. It's different for the shipper too, because they just want to make sure that like it's on time and it's going to be there when, they want it to be there. So it's like the predictive analytics that you could be able to generate if you had the data from the visibility tools and things were actually tracked. But, I guess it kind of goes back to the data silos, right?
Yeah.
I guess at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Brave new world though, with things like the cameras coming into place, and you've got trackers of all different kinds that you can throw on. I mean, I remember we were talking with what was it, Jake from Freight Roll earlier this year, Kev, and he was talking that some of these like manufacturers of food and bev, like you produce chocolate bars or candy bars, are economies of scale now where you could just throw like an RFID tracker on every single one of the SKUs. So I don't know, brave new world, and hopefully that kind of all of those things put together could create visibility that we've been talking about for 10 or 15 years now.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, so like the RFIDs are super interesting. And I think, when you start thinking through some of the fraud pieces on, some of the freight that's moving, we have so much fraud that's inside of this industry. The more that we get to the point of being able to catch that fraud earlier and identify, quote unquote, an actor that is going down the wrong lane or the wrong highway, I think that's going to be some of the stuff that starts to change the industry for the better as well. When we originally started tracking, it was almost in a sense of shippers are asking for it and Amazon is spoiling us and we all want to know where things are at. I think now it's moving more towards that freight fraud component to validate that the freight is actually where we say it is, to ensure that things aren't stolen, or if they are, that we can get a head start on going after them. So I think that's a change in the mindset in terms of what good visibility looks like. And I think even when we're selling to a shipper now, like that's a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is it's not just onboarding carriers and we got a whole bunch of carriers and look at us, we got 100,000 carriers and we got a great network. Now it's a matter of, hey, compare our onboarding to your other brokerage providers onboarding. Like our onboarding includes this for our carriers, and we ensure that every single carrier has this, right? And we have tracking not only to tell you where your load is, but to validate that we know everything about that carrier, and we can ensure that your freight's not going to be stolen. Like those are things that are selling inside the market nowadays, more so than, hey, we have 90% trackability on our loads. And I think that's a shift in terms of how the brokerage environment is starting to go.
In the last couple of years, how has fraud changed? Has it changed? Is it? I mean, what are the schemes now?
Got any good heist stories?
Well, if I told you, I'm not supposed to tell you, because then somebody will pick it up and be like, I'm going to try that one on them again, right? No, I mean, I think fraud is rampant. I think fraud is something everybody's talking about. I mean, we were kind of talking before we hit live on here, right? What's the number one thing I heard at TIA? Fraud. Like that's number one. Everybody wants to talk about it. And I think there's been some good technology and some good players that have come into this. Unfortunately, there's still bad actors out there. And the more that rates are what they are, the worse that some of these folks are trying to get on this stuff. And I think, I've had the high value stuff stolen. I've had the cheap stuff stolen. And it's still an issue across the board. I think you're seeing a lot of the same types of schemes that are out there, right? The email piece is very interesting. I had one where I had an I in logistics, and they changed the I to the, the punctuation I that is Spanish or Mexican, right? That has that. And I forgive me for not knowing what that's called, but that's how they had changed it. And you wouldn't have noticed that unless you looked specifically at that I in there. It looks like a dot above the I. And they got a load because of that piece of just changing the letter inside there. And so I think you're seeing a lot of those pieces. I think you're seeing a lot of the scheming related to phone numbers and email names, right? So phone numbers that come over as John Smith, and you're talking to John Smith via email. You think that it's the John Smith that you're talking to, and it's actually a different John Smith that's stealing it, and they're able to get the PO and get the load number and move in and get that freight. So I think you're seeing a lot of those pieces come in. I think the piece for us, right, and this is what I talk about a lot, is, man, you have to think that every single person, it sounds bad, but every single person that's contacting you is trying to do something negative. And so you have to be on guard, and it can't be this piece of, oh, this guy's got, great reputation. It has to go deeper than that. It has to go to the point of, this guy is trying to do something. This may be a bad actor. I need to do my due diligence on this entire evolution to ensure I'm not giving this load to somebody that I don't think it is. And I mean, it's tough work. I'll give you an example. So WSI, right? obviously I'm stepping in, I'm turning around and again, covering loads this week and making sure that I know the nitty gritty of how the brokerage is run. And it's still a concern for me, right? And I'm spending extra minutes to go through my onboarding technology, and I'm making sure that the phone number that they called is legit, and I'm doing all the things necessary. But when I go to bed at night, I'm still worried about that freight because of how many bad actors are in this environment and kind of what they've been able to do in this period of time right now.
And with that, I'll plug the Broker Carrier Summit once more. Is the best way to eliminate fraud risk is to do business with people that you know,
Yep.
right? Carriers that you know, right? Using the more carriers that are not in your network, but in your sphere that you have a relationship with is the best way to defend against fraud.
Yeah, I'll throw it out there too, because I think it's super beneficial. And this is something, that over the years, I think we as a brokerage environment have gotten better at, right? So before it was what brokerage you work for? Oh, cool. Don't talk to me. Like, I don't want to talk to you. Now it's become more of this sharing of information. I think there's really good brokerages out there that do a hell of a job when it comes to fraud prevention. And it's engaging those guys and it's talking with them. Hey, what'd you do? Like, how'd you do it? Hey, walk me through kind of how your onboarding is. Is that different than mine? Is that better than mine? Let me take a look at that. Is there something you guys are doing? Oh, that final check. Oh, I like that. Let me go off and copy that. Let me incorporate that into it. And I think you're seeing a lot more of this sharing of information between brokerages than you've ever seen before, because it's all affecting us and it's all impacting us, and it's all going to impact your customers. And a lot of our customers are the same customers for other brokerages. So the more that you do to engage with your friends that are inside this business in terms of how to actually deal correctly with fraud, don't think of this as I got to solve this myself. Think of this as other people have solved these pieces before. What can I do to copy them to bring that in, so I'm not trying to recreate the wheel? And then maybe you come up with something cool and you're able to share that with somebody else. I think that's the difference in what the brokerage market's doing today.
I agree with that, right? Because it's reputational risk or industry-wide reputational risk. It's just not your firm or your brokerage. Every time there's fraud, it's to every brokerage 3PL out there. It is it's reputational. The entire industry takes a hit, and again, stopping the fraudsters industry-wide is in everyone's best interest. I mean,
I think it's a really good point, right? Because brokerage is still a dirty word in certain environments and certain circles, right? It just is. And so I think the more that we can do to talk about why brokerage is good and beneficial, and what we're doing to better our industry. I think the Broker Summit is amazing, and I think it's awesome that folks get together. I mean, even at TIA, right? Yes, there's some shippers there and there's some tech guys, but who do we talk to? We talk to our friends that are inside this industry, and we want to talk through those different pieces. And I think the more that we can figure out we're in this together and we're all trying to accomplish the same thing, right? We want to bring on shippers, and we want to cover this freight, and all of us want to make money and all that stuff. That's all great, but at the end of the day, you're exactly right that the moment one shipper says, I don't work with brokerages anymore because Johnny Brokerage over here hosed me on this time, well, now it affects everybody else in the business. And so it is in your best interest to actually help Johnny be like, hey, don't do that again, man. Like, that's not how we operate. Like, let's make ourselves better in this industry. I think it just builds up the entire industry, right? I mean, high tide raises all boats. The more that we can focus on things like that to actually help brokerages achieve things, the better, right? I'm a small brokerage. I have experience in large scale brokerages. I can provide insight into kind of how I've done things in the past or what I'm thinking through. But I'm looking for those insights too. And I'm looking for people to help me and support me as I'm growing this piece out. Right. And I think that is super, super important as we're going through the market that we're in right now.
Definitely.
100%. How do you, makes me wonder, what do you look for in a carrier when you're onboarding a new carrier? Sometimes you can't develop the relationships with everybody in a personal fashion at the Broker Carrier Summit. That would be a phenomenal idea. What do you look for, right, in these applications? What could a carrier do to help themselves stand out? It seems like the barrier to entry for carriers to get in with, brokers is pretty high these days, right? And I'm sure that all this fraud and these bad actors and kind of this Streisand effect, like the more technology and the more that we focus on it, right, the more that fraudsters know there's an opportunity. So it's, while we're getting better at solving for it, their attack vectors change, and it seems like it continues to become a bigger problem every year. All that said, how do you, as a carrier, kind of like drown out the noise and put yourself in a position to be successful and move some freight for guys like yourself?
Yeah, I think, throw out kind of the requirements out there, right? And I think a lot of us are arguing through the different requirements, right? How long have they been, have they had their authority, right? How much cargo insurance do they have? Like all those things are kind of behind the scenes, and every brokerage will have a little bit different pieces on that, right? Hey, if anybody started after the start of COVID, like I'm not dealing with them, or whatever the case may be. So if we're not thinking through that piece of it, in terms of carriers, like for me, the big thing is if I call you, pick up the phone, right? If all you're doing is interacting with me on an email, you're probably somebody that either isn't being honest with me, or somebody, when I do call, you're not going to answer the phone. So I want to talk to you. Are you who you say you are? If I look up your phone number and I call you, and I can't get a hold of you, maybe I can't get a hold of you in the future when I need to find out where my load is, or what's going on at the receiver or shipper, right? Like, so I think it's picking up the phone and actually engaging with these folks, right? I think the other side of it too is when I talk to you and you say, hey, I'll go anywhere. That's not really true, right? Like you'll go to certain spots, and there's certain spots that you like to go to. Tell me that. Be honest with me. Let me help you. I can try to figure things out and be able to put you in the right spot so you can get on those lanes that you like to get on, right? So be transparent, be upfront with me. And then the third piece for me is this is a partnership, and this is, the only way to a partnership is there's got to be two sides to this piece, and we got to kind of meet in the middle on certain pieces, right? So if I engage with a carrier and the carrier is adamant about something, and we're trying to negotiate those pieces down, and they can't budge off where they're at, it's probably not somebody I want to work with in the future, because I'm trying to meet them halfway. Now, that requires a little bit of trust, and that requires a little bit of understanding that we're both doing this together. But if they're adamant in certain regards, then maybe there's not actually a partnership here, and it's just one-sided in that piece. So I want to be fair with them. I want them to be fair with me. I know they're looking at rates that are in the market. I understand that, right? And so if I turn around and lowball them, and they come back with, hey, this is what the market is, like it's in my best interest to make sure I'm playing ball too. And I think those are the ways in which you build those relationships, and you start to engage with carriers on a multiple load front versus those single ones. But at the end of the day, what am I looking for? I'm looking for a guy that wants to haul multiple loads for me, not just a single one and done and be over with it. I'm asking about the end of the week. I'm asking about next week. What can I do to support you? Like, where can I help you? And we're engaging in that partnership, and that's where it grows. And I think the best carriers, truthfully, are the ones that say, you know what, man, love the conversation. It's not matching up with us right now, but I'd love to onboard with you. Let me know when you have these lanes. This is where I like to go. And when you do, like, I'll be more than happy to support you. And I think that's where you're winning versus the one and done, and that's it. And he doesn't want to even think about future loads.
Love that.
Exactly right on that. Exactly right. Building that relationship, and that's how you do it. It's the fundamentals, and I think that's going to be the challenge of replacing carrier sales with AI.
Yeah,
that's there's costs and benefits to every decision. So
that's right.
I think you're seeing it strategically, and I think it'll be a big question for the industry moving forward.
Agree.
Yeah. Well, David, it's been great having you on the show this week. And yeah, I mean, how does everybody get in touch with you?
Yeah, super easy. I mean, obviously I'm on LinkedIn. I think some folks say too much, but I'll leave that for debate. I'm not on there very much, but on LinkedIn, folks can hit me on that. I'll provide my email as needed on LinkedIn. And that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. And we'll go from there.
And watch out for the name WSI.
WSI is coming, baby. We're coming.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming down the pipe. So, and then the next few months and years, you're on the radar.
Yeah, we're hiring, right? We talked about labor, and now I'm gonna pitch it, right? Like, we are hiring. Yeah. So if folks are interested in a Dallas-based position, let me know. I'll be more than happy to talk to them about that piece. We're gonna onboard the best tech that we possibly can, but at the end of the day, like, there's still gonna be a human attached to it. So if you're interested in joining quote unquote a rocket ship. Here we go. There's the word. If you want to join it, let me know and hit me up on LinkedIn. We'll go from there.
Yes, exciting opportunity, right? If you're in the Dallas area, hit up David because it is going to be a rocket ship.
That's it.
It is. It definitely is. So thank you so much for your time, and good luck, and we'll catch up very soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
You bet.
Thank you, David.
Cool. Always a great conversation with David Stone.
Absolutely. Very interesting guy with, I guess, wears a lot of different hats. Very smart dude.
I've known him for years. I never knew he was a nuclear engineer.
I know. I couldn't believe that.
I know.
Not many folks going from nuclear engineering into freight brokerage, but I guess it's it's not as easy as some folks make it sound.
I know. It's not. So where can you get a Maui like Maui? What is it? Mahi?
Well, a lot of different places.
You have to move to Florida to get it.
I did get it here in Florida. You can catch them in Florida. You can catch them in the tropics. They school up. They're pretty delicious fish.
Yes.
Weird looking fish with a big kind of bull head. But they're fun to fish for if you know where they are. Some live bait. I think that's evidently the way to catch them.
Yes. Live bait. Always have to have, especially in sales. So it's a really good segue into just sales in general. You have to have good bait.
That's right. Where's the bait, Mom?
Where's the bait?
Great fisherman never goes fishing without bait.
Oh no. So what's on your calendar for the rest of the day, rest of the month?
Busy day, busy month, busy next couple quarters. Got a call here in 5 minutes with a big global shipping brand, talking to them about sponsorship at this Change conference. Supply chain is changing pretty quickly these days. I don't know if you've heard. Supply chaining is hard these days. Hard to know which way is up, but Change is a place where people in supply chain can sit down with their peers, noodle on everything from AI to trade wars.
Where and when?
Trying to figure out which way is up. But sorry, what was that?
Where and when?
Got one coming up in Brussels. Brussels is June 17th and 18th. Bart de Monk is the chair for that event. Got renowned futurist Henrik von Schiele coming to speak. Have got people from Anastasia Lowry. She's policy advisor to the European Chamber of Commerce to the United States. So will be a great place to noodle with peers on problems and shake hands, kiss babies, whatever it may be, with the policymakers or strategists that can kind of help you think about what the next 5 or 10 years of supply chain will look like. And then we got another one kind of coming up in Columbus. It'll be a little bit bigger event. Really trending towards a nice audience there. I think there were 800 brands in attendance, and I saw like 300 people with supply or chain in their job titles. So
that's what Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio, September 9th and 10th. Would be a target-rich environment if you're doing anything to make lives easier for supply chain execs.
I think I might know 1 or 2 people that might be in that line.
Tell them to holler at me. I'll be happy to give them a discount code for a ticket and hook them up with a booth or a sponsorship, or even have like roundtable workshops where kind of have effectively a focus group, current or prospective customers, and got moderators to help moderate that so you don't come across too salesy. But great environment to really make some connections that could go somewhere.
Cool. Yeah. Well, very good. We need to wrap it up so you can jump on that meeting.
We do. Happy Thursday, y'all.
Happy Thursday. I won't be here next week. I don't know if you're going to do a show or not. It's up to you. but I'll be at the Broker Carrier Summit, and then the week after that, May 8th, I know Michael Lombard Trucking, and now Truck Parking Club will be on. He's got a little bit of energy, and he is a great character. I love talking to him. So
Looking forward
I
to
know
it.
we'll have May 8th doing that.
Love it. That'll be awesome. I don't know. Too early to tell on next week. We'll see. But yeah, looking forward to talking to Lombard. And always a pleasure, Kev. Catch you on the flip side.
You bet. Catch you on the flip side.
Peace.
Peace.